They promised the list would change everything. The list that would expose every powerful figure who ever stepped foot near Jeffrey Epstein. But when the moment finally came, the number of names the FBI confirmed was 0. After years of hype, podcasts, and endless speculation, Jared Moskowitz just forced the truth into the open, and Patel, now sitting in the hot seat as FBI director, had nowhere to hide. What happened next stunned everyone watching, because this wasn't just a hearing. It was the moment a political myth collided head-on with reality. For years, the so-called Epstein client list was treated like a time bomb. People said it would shatter careers, destroy reputations, even take down governments.
Of the United States said, Trump is either a cynical asshole or he's America's Hitler. And so this is the problem. Like, I don't want to have to say this garbage, but you want me to sit here and get painted with one brush, the whole left. No, there are extremes on the left, and there are extremes on the right. And we collectively should tackle that. But to come here and just look at us and say we all support what's going on in the extremes is why we can't solve anything in this building. Director, let me say first, thank you for being here, and my condolences on the loss of your friend. And I'm happy to hear that you want to do more on the social media platforms. Okay, it's crazy what's going on the social media platforms. There are so many conspiracy theories on what's going on with Charlie Kirk. Israel assassinated him, right? There are conspiracy theories about your personal social life all day. It is totally rampant. Big names on the right, Candace Owens, right? Talking about how what's been released as far as the dialogue between the perpetrator and his roommate is manufactured by the FBI, manufactured by the administration. It is totally rampant, allowing foreign governments to just perpetrate these platforms, all of these bots, all of the time to weaponize Americans. You see what's going on here? This is a byproduct of all of that. What's going on in the streets is a byproduct of all of that. What's happening is you see people celebrate Luigi Mangione is a byproduct of all of that. And so if we want to do something, then we should talk about Section 230. We should talk about how we're going to make sure that we don't let foreign governments poison our children's mind. And so I will work with you on that, Director.
I'll work with you on 230 any day.
No problem. So now, that was the good part. I want to take your attention back a second, okay? Breaking news. Patel is nominated to be the FBI director. Dan Bongino is nominated to be the number 2 at the FBI. MAGA celebrates, rejoices, bells are ringing out. The team, Patel, Bongino, that sought out every podcast microphone to talk about the Epstein list. The names are finally going to get released. It begins. They produce white binders. Phase 1 with the podcasters. This is not actually one of them, of course. I made this. Your name's on it, right? And the names are going to come out. Pam Bondi says the list is on her desk. Then a memo comes out all of a sudden and says, there's no list. Oh, no phase 2. Phase 2 binders never happen. You said the conspiracy theories around Epstein just aren't true. They never have been. And yesterday, in an answer to Senator Kennedy, you said the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. So according to your testimony yesterday and in this committee, according to the evidence the FBI has, the number of names on the list are 0.
No,
zero.
The index has been released, and the number of people involved in that trafficking operation were charged in 2018.
Other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, your testimony in the Senate and here is that according to the evidence you have, the number of other names is 0.
That were charged based on credible evidence.
Well, who are the other names? Give me the other names that weren't charged.
We are not releasing the names of anyone because the Department of Justice never does that of anyone that didn't have any credible information to attack them.
Let me move forward. The president has, you've seen the picture of the woman's body with the writing and the president's signature. The president says that's not his, okay? President says it's not his. The Republican colleagues say it's not his. The administration say it's not his. will you be opening up an investigation into the Epstein estate for putting out a fake document with the president's signature linking him to the world's largest pedophile ring? Will you be opening that investigation into that?
On what basis?
On what basis? They literally put out a fake document, according to the president, with a fake signature. It's a forgery of the president of the United States signature. That's the basis.
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay, I look forward to that investigation. Am I over? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your diligence.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair.
Influencers built audiences around that promise, repeating that the names were coming any day now. But when Moskowitz asked Patel directly, other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who else was charged, Patel didn't dodge, didn't hesitate. None, he said. The number is 0. The entire narrative that millions had been led to believe vanished in a single breath. That answer echoed through the room. No list, no secret binders, no hidden file of elites waiting to be exposed. Just 0. And that one word carried the weight of every broken promise made to the public. It exposed something bigger than a single investigation. It exposed how outrage had become a political weapon, because this story didn't start in that hearing room. It started years ago, when a wave of podcasts and talk shows turned the Epstein case into a cultural obsession. The idea of a list became a rallying cry. Pam Bondi, who once declared the list was sitting on her desk, fanned the flames. It was the perfect story, an evil network, hidden names, powerful people trembling in fear. Every post, every clip, every headline promised that justice was just around the corner. But it wasn't justice they were selling, it was attention. And now, under oath, the people who helped create the myth are being forced to face their own words. Moskowitz didn't yell. He didn't grandstand. He just asked simple questions, the kind that leave no room to escape. Who were the other names? Who was charged based on credible evidence? Silence followed. Patel's response was clear: no credible evidence, no other charges. For the first time, the illusion cracked in public view. The room went still. You could almost feel years of speculation collapsing in real time. But this wasn't just about political embarrassment. This was about the victims. Every time someone promised that new evidence was coming, survivors of Epstein's abuse watched and waited. They hoped that the system would finally deliver accountability, that maybe, just maybe, those who enabled Epstein would face justice. Instead, what they got was a circus. Their pain turned into fuel for political content, and when the truth finally surfaced, it came with the sound of air leaving a balloon. That's why Moskowitz's line of questioning mattered so much. He forced the FBI to answer not to a party, but to the facts. Because the truth is, facts don't care about narratives, they expose them. And when Patel said there was no credible evidence beyond Epstein and Maxwell, it wasn't just an admission. It was a turning point that revealed how much of the outrage had been built on sand. But then came the next twist: the photo. A document with the president's signature allegedly linking him to the Epstein network started circulating online. The president himself called it fake. His allies said it was a forgery. So Moskowitz pressed Patel again. If it's fake, will the FBI open an investigation? Patel paused, then agreed. Sure, I'll do it. Just like that, the director committed to investigating what his own allies had once amplified. The irony couldn't have been sharper, because if the signature was fake, that means someone forged a document to deceive the public, a federal crime. But if it wasn't, that raises an even bigger problem. Either way, the people who once demanded "release the list" were now asking the FBI to clean up the fallout from their own conspiracy. The outrage machine had turned inward. Behind all this chaos lies a dangerous pattern. Politicians and media figures have learned that outrage sells better than truth. Promises of secret files, hidden lists, and elite exposure make for great headlines, but they destroy trust when proven false. Each time the narrative collapses, it becomes harder for real investigations to be believed. Every exaggerated claim poisons the well a little more. And let's be clear, this isn't about left or right. It's about power and accountability. Because when those who built their careers on exposing corruption end up controlling what evidence gets released, transparency becomes selective. The same voices who once demanded "open everything" are now the gatekeepers of the very files they swore existed. That's not justice. That's manipulation dressed as righteousness. Pam Bondi's earlier role in this saga makes it even more troubling. Reports say she pushed for rushed FBI reviews of Epstein files to meet political timelines. Internal objections followed, and the end result was confusion, not clarity. She once said the client list was on her desk. Later, the DOJ and FBI both confirmed no such list existed. Those reversals don't just damage credibility, they shatter public faith in the system itself. When people can't tell the difference between fact and performance, democracy loses its anchor. And that's what Moskowitz confronted in that room, the gap between theater and truth. His questions weren't sensational. They were surgical. He took a story that had spun out of control and forced it back into the realm of evidence. Because somewhere between the hashtags and the hearings, the victims were forgotten. The goal was never supposed to be ratings. It was supposed to be justice. But justice doesn't trend. Outrage does. It's easier to post a meme about secret binders than to read a 500-page investigative report. It's easier to shout "cover up" than to understand how federal evidence rules actually work. And it's easier to promise the world than to admit the truth, that Epstein and Maxwell may have been monsters operating with impunity, and that the system failed to stop them long before any list ever existed. Still, Moskowitz's moment mattered because it drew a line. He reminded the Bureau that the public deserves clarity, not speculation. If there truly are no additional names with credible evidence, then the FBI should explain what was reviewed, how it was verified, and why those conclusions were reached. Transparency doesn't just serve politics, it rebuilds trust. And without trust, every future investigation will start under suspicion. Patel's short answer might have ended the myth, but it also created a new demand: proof of process. If the agency expects Americans to accept that the Epstein case stops at 2 names, it must show the work. Which records were examined? Who reviewed them? What evidence remains sealed, and why? Without that accounting, conspiracy will fill the vacuum again, because that's how misinformation survives. It grows in the shadows left by half-answers. Each gap becomes a headline. Each delay becomes a smoking gun. And that's why hearings like this matter. They drag speculation into daylight, where it can either stand on evidence or disappear under scrutiny. But maybe the most revealing part of this story isn't the list that never existed. It's the silence that followed. The same voices that once shouted for exposure suddenly went quiet after Patel's testimony. No more promises. No more countdowns. Just a quiet retreat from a narrative that had served its purpose. And in that silence, the real damage lingers. A public more cynical, a system more distrusted, and survivors left wondering if justice will ever mean something again. The lesson here is uncomfortable but necessary. Power, regardless of who holds it, will always try to use outrage as a shield. Institutions that bend to that outrage lose credibility, and when credibility is gone, justice becomes just another slogan. That's why accountability must cut both ways, through politics, through media, through the agencies themselves. So what happens now? The path forward isn't dramatic, it's disciplined. Independent oversight of the FBI's review. Public summaries of what was examined and why. Transparent investigation into any alleged forgeries or falsified documents. Real consequences if officials abuse their positions for political gain. These aren't partisan demands. They're the foundation of a justice system worth believing in. Because if institutions keep choosing theater over truth, then the next scandal will follow the same script: promises, outrage, silence, and collapse. And each cycle will push people further away from believing anything at all. That's the real danger. The erosion of shared reality. Jared Moskowitz didn't solve the Epstein mystery that day, but he did something just as important. He forced accountability to start where it always should, with facts. He showed that one honest question, asked at the right time, can cut through years of noise. And in a culture addicted to spectacle, that's revolutionary. And if you want more deep dive coverage that cuts through the noise, stories that follow the facts, not the frenzy, make sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this story isn't over yet, and the next chapter will reveal even more about who's been protecting power and who's finally ready to challenge it.